So from there, our Star Wars and life adventures, we are going to head into the Star Wars news, and a good mix of okay, small story, cool story, and what I would consider a big story, even though it doesn't have a ton of information. Headline reads, finally, an open world Star Wars game coming. Oh my God, is this finally happening? All right, just days after the announcement of Lucasfilm Games, the kind of rebranding of an old friend. We got word that Ubisoft and their massive entertainment studio, based out of Sweden, I do believe, is working with Lucasfilm on a new story-driven open world game. Not many details after that or other than that. This has been long desired in this modern era. So, Joseph, what do we think and what do we want out of this game with no information?
Oh, there's no information. In some ways, that is the most fascinating time, right? Because we can just throw the doors open wide to wild speculation. I was really happy to hear that they've already been working on it for a while. So this isn't like, hey, cool, a video game's coming in 17 years. So
Right.
hopefully this will be in the next 2 years, that they announced this. Everybody has wanted this for so long. You and I have talked about it a lot. I think the open world thing is, the Red Dead Redemption vibe is really what I want. I want that balance of I am a character who can do a sort of a relatively streamlined story, but still takes a little bit of time. But that I can just wander. I so love Jedi Fallen Order, and I for the story, and I really like the combat. But then I was like, I love that game. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna find all the different lightsaber parts, and I don't like the map design personally, where it's really hard to just wander. And I want to visit, Kashyyyk, and I want to go into that hut and talk to that Wookiee for a while, and then I want to get in a ship and just go to Numidian Prime and play Sabacc, and then get back to my mission if I feel like it. I want that balance. That's the big picture thing for me. And then when I was really thinking, and I was curious what your take on this was, Ken, about what was so appealing to me about that first Red Dead Redemption. I think for Red Dead Redemption and for Legend of Zelda as well, I think I like the combat mechanics. But I think what really puts those games over the top for me is I only ever fight as an end. It is always motivated. And I love games that are just, shoot 'em up or hack and slash. And, that's really great and really fun if you're in that mood. But I think that's what I've been missing. And in Jedi Fallen Order definitely had some of that. But, when I think back of Red Dead Redemption, I was really happy to be fighting because I wanted to help that person or accomplish that goal, or go back to Legend of Zelda. I always think of these creatures, the Gorons, who are just super relatable, and I really want to help them. So I'm not fighting out of like total fantasy. I'm fighting to accomplish a goal, and I really want to feel that. How do you feel about that? I know you've played even more Red Dead Redemption than me. Do you like the combat that is almost always for a goal, not just for combat's sake?
Yes, I gotta, you're, it's so funny as I'm listening to you talk, like you're kind of, I'm like nodding my head, like, that's kind of, even back in the day that I was picking up on and wasn't aware of. I obviously play, I play a lot of the sports games, all that kind of stuff. But as a sports fan, what really gets me into the game is choices and managing. And that's why the fantasy of being a general manager that runs a team, it's almost a different muscle, but it's not in a way, because I love to just really kind of take my time and think about what I'm going to do. Fallen Order, it took a little bit, not a little, people love the game as they should, but like a little bit of the, how many animals are you going to kill? Is there a way around this? Even the story in Battlefront 2, you have to do this story. Like you need to move it forward, right? There's not a lot of choices. And it's been around for a few years, choose your own adventure books were choices. I love feeling like I'm in the world, and Skyrim and the Assassin's Creed game. You mentioned the Zelda games, which might be the first one where you kind of were pulled into a story and pulled into a world, and it's all kind of there. But that, more than anything with Red Dead Redemption, is the wonderful. It's a challenge for me. Like I'll still go into the game now on a Red Dead Redemption 2, and just see how long can I go hang out in a bar before I accidentally fight someone, push someone, or they get mad at me, and how can I use it? There's those campsites, and I think they do have them in the first Red Dead too. But like, there's the campsites, and you're going around, you see some smoke. I will go over to every one of them and try to be friends. And 90% of them are there to, get out of my camp, and you end up shooting them in a fight. Like, and I don't like it. And there's a couple that are like, "Come on, friend." I want that for Star Wars. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, more in Old Republic, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff too. It's breaking new ground and no ground broken at the same time, and that's going to be happening. I love the first Mass Effect game, which has. I think about that a lot when I hear about open world Star Wars, because multiple planets, multiple worlds, like that's the kind of stuff, they're going to have to deal with. Red Dead Redemption, big map, but it's a part of a fake United States of America. Like, here you go. A couple horse rides, you're in the bayou, from it's different. So that Star Wars has that problem to deal with. So I don't want it to be on one planet, but I want to live in it. I want to have the choices. I want to do what you say. I want to make my decisions on who I'm going to be in the game, and that could be potentially really powerful in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the given that they have this that Lucasfilm Games is great to get this clarity that Lucasfilm Games is basically, we are all of the story people, the franchise people, the people who really understand Star Wars and video games, and then we're going to work with all of these different companies who come up with ideas. But that makes it really exciting to me that the video games are going to continue to be at that story level of Battlefront 2 and Jedi Fallen Order. So it does make me really interested to think about what's going to be at stake, since Star Wars is so often a story of, coming of age, whether you're 8 or 19 or 48 or 67, who do you want to be? What choice do you want to make? And that becomes really interesting in an open world game.
Yeah, there you go. ForceCenter, as always, going to the philosophy of your choices in a video game. I know. Hey, it's going to be. They pull this off, and I know people have been wanting this. This could be potentially huge into what it is. And I really enjoy Squadrons. Played it with Alex Damon last week. He's got an episode of his show Com Chatter coming out that I'm on, and I'm not great at it, but that pulls me into Star Wars from a certain side. Fallen Order did as well, Battlefront 2. But yeah, I think I'm one of those people that is waiting for something like this. We've been close before, so let's hope we get it. Additional news out of this, Joseph: the Star Wars games license is now going to be open to any game developers that want to try to make a Star Wars game. I'm sure there's an application process, but this also means EA will continue to develop the games, but they're going to open it up there. So general thoughts on the wide open license kind of idea, the importance of great Star Wars games to us, and how that can help that. And then, we'll talk a little bit about EA, because I think you and I enjoy, say, Battlefront 2, the first Battlefront re-release, more than others did at the time. I don't have a huge stake in the video game wars, and I know a lot of people have been unhappy with EA. So not disagreeing, not necessarily agreeing. I know that's out there. So what does this mean to you, Joseph? License are now open.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think maybe some of the frustration with EA that I've seen is not just the games, but the the jam in the pipeline. And I think this is great to get rid of that, to say, look, the EA is developing the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. And it might not be out for 2 years, but another cool game is going to come out because now a bunch of people are working on it. So I think that will allow for diversity of games. We've talked a lot about the great Star Wars buffet of having lots of different Star Wars dishes for lots of different fans who like different things. Star Wars Squadrons is a great example of that. Of, hey, you like the flying and the pilot's part of Star Wars? Here you go, take it. So hopefully we'll get more of that. I also just like this structure. That is this great sort of classic Star Wars, new and old. If you've got this kind of group, it almost sounds like Lucasfilm Games is a little bit like like the story group of, we are the holders of the big picture of Star Wars, and we want to invite in new voices, and we want you, all these video game companies, pitch us your cool, totally, breaking, expectations, Star Wars story and video game. And we'll say, yes, 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 yes to all these things. And then we'll go, but, we really want to make sure that it agrees with this overall philosophy of Star Wars, or this overall canon. It's really exciting to me, because it's the video game world embracing great balance that the Mandalorian has, of the new and the old. Of you need the excitement, but you also want to pay tribute to what has come before. And it seems like this is a great setup to do that.
Oh, that's great. What great way to look at it too. I am excited to the diversity of games and just like different, and there's little, mobile games and all that kind of stuff, but just like on a bigger level. And we're so used to Battlefront 2 and Battlefront. It's big. It's got a panel at Celebration. Fallen Order was like the almost anticipating the release of a movie. I love that. Don't want that to go away. But I also love the idea of just like, great, you got 8 new games this year. And it's not gonna be like that. But just that it's just like every year there's a baseball game. Every year there's a wrestling game or something. Throw that out there too, man. Just have a lot of Star Wars games to choose from. That buffet will now extend it to the games. That could be fun. As far as EA stuff, again, I don't really have a dog in that fight. I enjoy what I got. My bar is sometimes lower, though it gets it gets also prickly and specific too. There's a lot of things about Fallen Order, the gameplay I didn't like, but overall character story, big moments, really cool stuff. But I've been generally happy there. So I'm glad for one that maybe they still get to try and improve and continue to develop Star Wars games.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that Fallen Order sequel, so that's great. I
Yeah.
did want to ask you about this because I think it's probably a thing that is on a lot of fans and listeners' minds. Do you have any desire for who the central character is? Are you wanting a bounty hunter game? Are you wanting another Jedi game? A different kind of a character or faction? And do you have like era desires for when this is set too?
That's a big one, right? Era's the one because obviously I'm going to go. I want to be a rebel spy. Maybe that's it. But with the High Republic era, I don't know the amount of time. They've been developing the High Republic era for a long time, but they have also been like, hey, let's get a game in that era too, or around that time. Does Old Republic, does it need to be an era where there's room to have the story go different places, right? You don't want to be so much of a Fallen Order is kind of in a box. It's this brand new story. We're learning, oh, wow, there was another Jedi kid, and but it's still kind of in a box to me. It's got to play in the certain areas. So I don't know. A character where you can mold the character to look like you, act like you, feel like you. That's something I want too. So Bounty Hunter kind of goes to that, but then Bounty Hunter with a heart of gold, Bounty Hunter with no heart, then maybe that's how you choose it. So I don't. I'll think about that because I just want to fly an X-wing, salute Mon Mothma and Radis and all that kind of stuff. But that's my desires.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so fascinated because I think before The Mandalorian, I would have said I want to be like a bounty hunter, maybe right, after the Empire Falls and the New Republic era, and you're going on from place to place, taking missions from people, and like, oh, that's The Mandalorian, that's the show, and so there's a part of me that wonders, like, I think there's more of an investment in having new characters in video games that can have their own story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I don't think this is just going to be the Din Djarin video game. But then I also wondered, like, well, okay, is a bounty hunter? Does it feel like we're getting that in the Mandalorian? So then I go to a Jedi, and like, oh, but is a Jedi? Did we just get that with Fallen Order? So we want to have something slightly different. I think for just myself as a Star Wars fan, I just always love being Jedi, and I would love it honestly. High Republic era, or maybe even a kind of prequel Fall of Jedi era. They got 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I think I really like the idea of being a Jedi who's got a mission, but is also just going around the galaxy being a person.
That's a good era. Actually, that's a good era. We do have some stuff there. Legends obviously had a lot more, but we don't have a ton. And there's some time to climb around and meet some familiar names or go to some familiar planets and locations and all that kind of stuff. That's a good era.
Yeah. So I got some hopes for that. So I'm very excited. This is probably the video game that I've been most excited about in a while.
Same. Another one I'm excited for. We're going to talk about it here. It is Lucasfilm. Joseph, you willed it into existence, apparently. A lot of people correctly giving you some credit about that there. We talked about it. The news kind of broke, and this is we the way we record, sometimes we get a chance to talk about it. Sometimes we do. We want to revisit it. But let's talk a little bit about Indiana Jones. It seems Star Wars adjacent enough there. Same kind of thing. An actual canon story. You got maybe Uncharted vibe in it, which was it had the Indiana Jones vibe. Are you ready to don your video game fedora now?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm so thrilled by this because, yeah, last week when we were recording, we just had the kind of straightforward, like, hey, Lucasfilm Games is back, but it was a little ambiguous what that meant. And I had pontificated. It'd be great if they kind of reminded everyone that Lucasfilm is Star Wars, but yes, it's a lot of other things too. And an Indiana Jones game would be a great way to do that. So I'm thrilled by this. And it hasn't been an Indiana Jones game in a long time that I'm aware of. So I'm excited because there's so much potential. It's so globe hopping, globe trotting. I'm really, really excited to have good whip functionality. And I really, really desperately want Harrison Ford to maybe narrate it. Like maybe it's framing device. There's a James Bond video game that came out a long time ago now. That's From Rush with Love, and they have Sean Connery doing the voice, and it's very clearly older Sean Connery. And it's it's a trip. It's very fun and funny. So I would love to hear some Harrison Ford.
I think it'd be great. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Big Indiana Jones fan. A lot of people listening are. Joseph is as well. And there's just some too where I almost have my excitement for this is on the level with a Star Wars open world game, but there's a little less pressure on this idea from me personally, where we don't have a ton of this. Yes, there were some games back in the day. I love the Indiana Jones Lego game. The first one, second one was all right. The first one it's one of my favorite video games. A lot of fun. That's Lego in its own kind of world. This is perfect. And when Uncharted came out, I played the first Uncharted game, most of the second, and I really, really enjoyed it. But it's like you can't help but be like, man, what if they could do this with Indiana Jones? Well, now we can. And I do finally own one of those Disney fedoras that you can get at the gift shop there. I'll put that on while I'm playing.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that Instagram photo right there.
Yes, indeed. So a lot more Star Wars video game news on the way, I'm sure. Stay tuned for that. This one here, put this in the not unexpected, kind of thought to be true already, but now confirmed. Kevin Kiner, according to filmmusicreporter.com. That's right, filmmusicreporter.com. That's a good thing. Tracking all the music news out there. Kevin Kiner is scoring The Bad Batch, the next Star Wars animated program. So, hey, look, Joseph, we've discussed Kiner's great work before, how important it is for us to keep the train rolling. I'm reading my own notes wrong. San Diego. We've discussed his great work before is where I wanted to go, but I want to know how important it is to us to keep what I'm calling the train rolling on Kiner scoring, like Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch. Star Wars Resistance was composed by Michael Tavera and excellently, but Kiner's just so good at this. How important it is for you to have it all kind of feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice connective thread because Resistance is a little bit separated in timeline and style, and it looks like Bad Batch has a real Clone Wars look from that trailer, so I feel like that just kind of makes aesthetic sense. I also think it's great any opportunity for more people to hear and appreciate Kevin Kiner and just be reminded that he's kind of the original, not John Williams.
Yeah.
So much was made of the films, understandably, Rogue One and Solo, and I think both those composers did a great job. I particularly love the Solo theme. It is great writing music. It is great driving music. But we've even talked about in the Disney Gallery when the music for Mandalorian is fantastic, but when they're talking about all the exploration with different things, Filoni's like, yeah, Star Wars has room for that. And it's almost like you can hear him saying, like, Kevin Kiner's been doing this for years, which is to take nothing away from the absolutely fabulous music of Mandalorian. And I think there's some stuff in Mandalorian that is truly groundbreaking and its own thing. Yeah. But Kevin Kiner has been exploring in Star Wars for a long time. And sometimes when you watch Clone Wars or Rebels, or at least when I do, I can just kind of get caught up in the flow of the characters and the plot. And it's really rewarding when I remind myself to take a step back and listen to the music. And he blends old themes really, really well and just has a ton of just like fun and experimentation. And I'm excited for that in Bad Batch. It makes sense that this is kind of an era we haven't spent a ton of time in, and I'm excited for his musical exploration of that era.
Yeah, I love that you said kind of the exploring. That's what I feel he did well. And look, a lot of it's you're in a prequel era, and I still think John Williams explored different Star Wars sounds in those prequel films, from Duel of Fates to all the Padme's ruminations we always talk about, the drums at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. There are a lot of cool things that John did, so it just kind of makes sense that Kiner's like, cool, let me roll around that as well, and gets a ton of credit, but there was a time where I didn't know his name. You know what I mean? There was a time, even when I was watching Clone Wars regularly, it wasn't until I think we started talking about it on shows and stuff where you're like, I don't naturally look for who composed things. I never did. And so, you kind of have to now as part of the discussion points. But I just kind of, the opening theme was a little different for me, as we've talked about before. And then I come to like it, but I love that he has his fans and gets his due here. But I gotta ask you, with kind of doing the music, Bad Batch is so close to the Clone Wars in look, feel, and time. We get a sense it's kind of picking up right around the same time Clone Wars season 7 wraps up. We don't know that for sure, but it sure has that feel. What do you think, Joseph, that this show can do to create its own identity and stand on its own?
Yeah, I was thinking just about what's going on and what might be at stake, and I'm excited for the Bad Batch. If this was the Bad Batch's adventures during the Clone Wars, I'd be like, oh, that's fine. I'm intrigued by a weird Star Wars A team. That's great.
Mhm.
But this era is really exciting me. That trailer really excited me. So I think it, I'm excited for the characters, but I'm more excited for them being our eyes and a witness to the sudden realization that, oh, wait, the Empire is not great. So I think like the ingredients that I think about is I think there's going to be some big action because they are very much this weird 80s action team. So I think we're going to get a lot of that, which might, there's definitely action in Clone Wars, but I think this might be a little bit different. Um, I think we're going to get a sudden moral crisis from characters who didn't expect to have it, with the Bad Batch trying to decide who they want to be and how they want to function in this new reality. I think we're going to get these stories like we got in the Clone Wars, these stories of all of these different people who didn't want to be involved or were caught up in their individual communities were adversely affected by the Clone Wars. I think we can get lots of individual communities realizing that the Empire's boot is coming down on their necks right now, and it hasn't been that way for a while. But the fresh story of the dawning realization of that, of like, oh no, this this is even worse, or even visiting affluent places who just don't see it because it's not happening to them yet. So those are some of the kind of the tonal shifts that I'm interested in. Also, explosion of crime, right? Because if the Empire is going, you know what, the war has created lots of opportunities for the Hutts, for this new Crimson Dawn thing. Yeah, who cares?
Mhm.
So, and I think Bad Batch might be running into those. So those are some of
Yeah.
the kind of tonal things that I think might make it unique.
Yeah, those big themes are great here. We got a group of clones that are very clearly individuals, right? In the face of being like the folks all around you, right? And we've already established, hey, they're the one of these things is doing their own thing there. But how they find themselves on the wrong side, or how soon, I'm curious if they explore. Do they go a little bit down the path, like I guess with the Republic now? Wait, and what you're describing, like this isn't right, and how do they deal with that as individuals, as a group within another group, and how you change and grow from, hey, what we once were isn't maybe what we want to be now. That's kind of stuff. But also love, and it is similar to Rebels. We focus on this group of rebels, but I like that in this one, maybe versus the Clone Wars, which is very just wonderfully widespread and epic across many storylines. And yes, we have our main characters, and yes, we follow them almost week to week. But you're part of something bigger at any point. Plo Koon can come in and be a leader in a story. Kit Fisto, all these great characters. I really want to see during this era, following this group, this Bad Batch around, and just kind of setting, not you mentioned A Team, which is a great, obviously kind of a great connection, but just yeah, kind of being that the weekly adventures of the A Team, but knowing that they're going to have to deal with this on their own there, and then maybe Kiner can throw in more rock music.
Yeah, yeah. And well, Fennec Shan's theme, I'm sure we'll get.
Gosh, you know what? Gosh, not that I forgot about Fennec, but I'm really excited for her appearance in there. That's really cool. Love those kind of connections. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Final story here. We've been talking about the High Republic. We did the big discussion on Light of the Jedi with Alex Damon. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out, maybe you're still reading the book or finishing the book, that's out there for you here on the feed. We also rebroadcast it on YouTube if you want to check it out there. But the High Republic launches at the top of the bestseller list. It was fun to see like Cavan Scott and Justine Ireland tweeting about this even before it was official. They were counting down to like 5 p.m. I think Cavan Scott said 5 p.m. yet. So here's what it is. Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule and Test of Courage by Justina Ireland debuted at 1 and then number 2 in their specific categories on the New York Times bestseller list. So general thoughts, excitements about this, Joseph?
Yeah, I think it is obviously just a great launch for a new era. I think it is, always a good advertising thing and a feather in the cap of like, look, this new era really kicked off. This proved that you don't need Han Solo on the cover or Qui-Gon Jinn on the cover. You don't need that. The idea of Star Wars is what its power is, not just the characters that we all know really well. I think really, really driving that home is great. I think that's to me that's a part of the power of it. Of like, look, Star Wars can experiment and it still stays popular. And I've seen sort of a somewhat understandable snark of like, oh no, Star Wars is dead,
Sure.
But I do think the point of that is well taken. Is people who don't like modern Star Wars and choose to express themselves in an angry and dismissive way about it often say like it's dead, Disney killed Star Wars, and it is great to have these like no.
Yeah.
Reality disagrees with that. The New
Yeah.
York Times bestsellers list disagrees with the perspective that Star Wars is dead.
There it is. You can put that little flagpole in your front yard. Look at this 1 and 2, and excited that it was both books. And Justine Ireland's Test of Courage. Joseph and I are both reading. We're just getting started out life, kind of after Light of the Jedi. It's always like you read one book and you're kind of like you got to take a breath before you dive. Even though it's a middle grade reader and much easier to comprehend. Actually, it's probably more my reading level nowadays. You got to take a moment. So we're going to get to that. We are going to talk about that. We don't want to overlook what Justine Ireland brought to this High Republic era, but we love Light of the Jedi. That's exciting. But the see Test of Courage rank high as well, and that it's the era and it's Star Wars, and people are curious. I got a couple people reaching out who are friends of mine, but who have expressed displeasure with modern Star Wars many, many times. And I respectfully disagree with some of the stuff they say on it and even how they say it, quite frankly. But they reached out and were like, hey, what do you do? I'm kind of curious. And I gave it obviously a glaring review, but a glowing review, not glaring. I glared at them as I gave it a glowing review. That's what was on my mind. But it showed me kind of what you're saying here. Just like, yeah, you know what? A lot of people do want Star Wars to go to new eras, or a lot of people just, even if they're ready to throw dirt on the grave of Star Wars, the name and other people's excitement for it is always going to make them excited. And that's part of what I took out of this news, combined with some personal communications I was having with these people around the time that this was happening. Like people are seeing it. Oh, the High Republic. What is this? What's in there for me? I'm a Star Wars fan, and I want to I gravitate to the name. So I think that's pretty good thing for Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yes, great that this approach of let's launch at different categories, different ages. I'm really glad that worked out so well, that it's not just Light of the Jedi, the adult book, that is, the kicking everything off and telling us this story of the great disaster, but that Test of Courage is doing so well is awesome.
Great indeed. And now Star Wars, what do you think? Final look at the story here. What do you think about Star Wars going forward? Now there'll be more experimentation, not just in this era. We also got to finally maybe get the Old Republic. Do you think they can look at this and go, hey, not only are we confident in what we got, people are liking this, people are taking it in, and the numbers are there. Do you think we'll translate to that kind of approach going forward?
I really hope so. I really hope that, down the line, when this era, however long these first 3 phases, or maybe only phases of their High Republic story, when those wrap up, it makes me excited to know that, hey, big publishing initiatives are going to be successful. And then for the success of the actual High Republic, I'm really hoping that whichever age level people follow along on, or if they read them all, that it's gonna be a fun community of people who can't wait for the next chapter of the story, the same way it is for like The Mandalorian, where we really can't wait to see what happens next. And there's that excitement and anticipation. To have that for the written word or for audio is really great. I think really important. I think it flexes, whether you read or listen, I think it flexes a different part of our brain muscles. So I'm excited just for people being excited for the next chapter and going on a big ride together. And the fact that it started off that well really makes me hopeful that, like a year and a half from now, people will be really excited for the next big chapter, because that's when, Avar Chris is going to have a showdown with this person from the Nile. Oh boy, we're so excited for the next one. That's what I'm hoping we get to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving that already. Even just a few chapters into Test of Courage, just in that world, in that era, they've done such a great job starting it off, establishing. And even for an old crusty guy like me, who is like, no, I like my 19 years between episode 3 and episode 4. That's the only era I want to live in. Even though I can sometimes, my feet are in concrete on that. This showed me that nope, you can get pulled in entirely into a great new era when it's done this wonderfully. So exciting on a personal level for me as well. All right, we have looked at the Star Wars news of the day. More will probably break as this episode airs. We'll talk about it another time. Thank you all for being in on that joke. You all are also, it's moved past the, hey, you guys missed the talking about this too. Now you all know when we're recording. Share our sigh. So we'll see what happens this week. Maybe nothing now that I've highlighted it. Before we take a break and come back with your questions, we're going to do our ForceCenter Recommends, an audiobook we think you should try out on us. Joseph, hey, look at that. What do we got?
Yeah, this is just bonkers. We're recommending Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. For people who haven't caught up and are into listening to audiobooks, I think it's really worth listening and seeing if this new era is for you. And like Ken said, we gave both glaring and glowing reviews of Light of the Jedi on our big discussion episode with Alex Damon of Star Wars Explained. So listen to the Light of the Jedi on us, and then listen to our discussion.
Listen indeed. audibletrial.com/ForceCenter is where you can download your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. All right, let's take a break here on ForceCenter and come back with your questions on episode 290 of the main show, the big show, the Superstar Destroyer of our fleet. We'll see you on the other side.